all here now at 7:15. I'd love for you to call.
Okay,
order.
Commissioner Merritt? Here. Commissioner Dillard?
Here.
Commissioner Johnson?
Here.
Commissioner Gathawa?
Here.
Commissioner Kichi?
Here.
And Commissioner Simmons? Well, we know he's here, so.
So thank you, Stephanie. I would love for Commissioner Merritt to read the Native American land acknowledgement, please.
We meet here today in the community of Iowa City, which now occupies the homelands of Native American nations to whom we owe our commitment and dedication. The area of Iowa City was within the homelands of the Iowa, Meskwaki, and Sauk, and because history is complex and time goes far back beyond memory, we also acknowledge the ancient connections of many other indigenous peoples here. The history of broken treaties and forest removal have dispossessed indigenous peoples of their homelands was and is an act of colonization and genocide that we cannot erase. We implore the Iowa City community to commit to understanding and addressing these injustices as we work toward equity, restoration, and reparations.
Thank you, Commissioner Merritt. I'm going to move to public comment, and it looks like, unless Annie, you had something you wanted to, okay, then we'll move past that. On to approval of meeting minutes from March 18th, 20th, and 21st.
I approve. I move to approve.
I second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve the TRC meeting minutes from March 18th, 20th, and 21st. All those in favor say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you, Stephanie. I'm going to move on to agenda item number 5, debrief from fact-finding and truth-telling events held in March. I'd love to open up for public comments first. If there's anyone online that attended the events that would love to give their thoughts on how the events went, please raise your hand now. Okay. Well, I see that there's no one in the public that would like to comment, and I'd like to open up for us to just talk about how we believe the March 18th, 20th, and 21st events went. Something that we do at my organization is we do SWOT meetings where you talk about strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. I think that would be a good way to kind of discuss how we think things went and how we believe they can move forward. So if there's anyone that would like to talk first.
I'll go first. I felt like it was very productive. I felt like we all did a good job at communicating and making sure that everyone had an opportunity to speak. And things got a little heated at certain points, but at the same time, I feel like the healing circles were fantastic. I felt like that really brought out the humanity in everybody. And we already knew that these situations were going to get heated, and there would be a lot of feelings involved. But with that being said, there was still growth, and that's the most important thing. I feel like everybody really came together and gave their truth, and then showed that each one of us are in it for the right reasons. And that's what I took away from that big circle at the end. And I honestly feel like we need more of that. I feel like that was something that if we did that throughout the city, it really could make a huge difference. I feel like it just brought people together the right way. Other than that, everything was pretty organized. Everybody ran everything smooth. Just say thank you to everybody for the hard work. You guys did well.
Thank
That's
you,
all.
Commissioner Johnson. And also thank you for letting us use your space. Anyone else want to take a turn in debriefing the events? Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats for moving forward. Yeah, go ahead, Amos.
Commissioner Amos. I think the events went very well, and mostly as we planned. And personally, I'm going to talk about what I got. I was able to learn a lot from the truth tellers some of the issues that are still confronting our communities, especially treatment of people of color whenever they are interacting with the police, either in areas of business, on the roads, and in their especially business establishments. And sometimes these things are likely to affect their customers, can affect their businesses, can affect their freedom to do business or operate the way they will. And that is an injustice in itself. So that was an important thing I learned. It is not that something that I experienced myself as somebody who has a small business here, but I got other information that it is not only me. A fellow commissioner also is experiencing that. So that means that if we do out a survey or talk to other people in the community, you might find it is a common problem people are facing. I also learned that we still have injustices in the way our people are treated in the justice system. They don't get enough support that actually they have a right to. And we can still see somebody falling in the cracks just because the system failed them. The system being the school system, law enforcement system, the court system, and other things. So those are two important things that were very, very important to me. And I also learned that there's still discrimination, people facing. They could be people who are like us or are associated with us, or they don't look like us, but they are in our families. If in my family I have somebody who's not black, anything that affects me affects the other person, even though they might not be black or minority. So we need to consider it holistically, that relationships in the community are not just about color. Sometimes it goes beyond color in business, in marriages and other things. So we need to consider that aspect as we go along, looking and telling the truths. Those were the good things I learned, but I think I have some areas that I will need improvements on. I'll talk about that. And on forthcoming truth-telling events, if we have them, but we might be having different types of events. So on truth-telling, I think we need to really vet the people whom we are going to hear from very well. And we thought we had guidelines for vetting, but probably we didn't stick to them that much. So vetting was mainly done by the chair and the think piece people, maybe one commissioner. I think it is important that maybe more commissioners are involved in vetting people, ask questions, ask these people, so that they also know something about the persons they are going to hear from. It even helps you prepare the questions you're likely to ask, so that we are not surprised or ambushed in any way. Yeah, so that's a weakness that I saw in the last meeting. Yeah. I also saw that we need to stick to the guidelines on how we do things, maybe on the events. If they're supposed to be done a certain way, I think we need to be very clear about that. Who's doing the what and who is not doing what at different times, because that confusion and uncertainty can create a lot of problems, and we almost ran into that. Yeah. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Would someone else like to debrief?
Yeah, I'd like to make a couple comments. On the topic of the vetting process, as long as we make sure that people know that anybody can do truth-telling, but when it comes to the actual public truth-telling, that's for the vetting process. I don't want people to necessarily think that there's a censorship process, but I wholeheartedly believe that we do need to do a better vetting process so we know, what to relatively know what to expect. It's going to be publicly discussed, so that we can, and we can't necessarily make everything completely safe, but just try to make it safer so that, to try to avoid any kind of sort of risk to people in the audience or other truth tellers, so that, that they're not triggered. So I do, and I think maybe we can probably set up like written guidelines of what our vetting process is, and so that we're consistent with each one, something like
And we
that.
do have written guidelines that were provided to us by Think Piece, so that we can choose to tweak. But
Yeah. But either that or also maybe and have a deadline so there's enough time to know and to give notice to people who are coming that what kind of things they can expect. I do like how at the end, of the last one, the circle, the healing circles, I think as a group, we all needed it. I mean, because I know at least for myself, not expecting, having the unexpected happen and not knowing how it's going to affect. And it was definitely very nice to have that, the group healing, and so that when we left there, that things were in a much better place than what could have been without it. So I think that would definitely be something that we should put in place for sure. But I do think as a whole, I do think things were a success. We had an idea of this is what can happen, some things that we have suggest how we want to do differently. I mean, this is the first run. We're just learning, and I think this was a perfect example of even under short notice how much that we could do, and what more we can do in the future. So,
thank you, Commissioner Merritt. Commissioner Simmons, would you like to go? I don't think we can hear you. Oh,
No, I can hear you.
okay, now we can hear
Can
you.
you hear me?
Yes. Stephanie, can we turn it up a little bit?
Yeah, Chad, just start talking. I'll try to see which is blinking the most, and that's probably what's controlling your volume.
So the experience of the actual work that was happening, I thought was done that was very well. I thought that the process, in essence, that was in place as far as having the fact finding and having the truth telling and even the healing circles, again, I thought that went well. There were some things that I was very challenged about. The first one was that it was inconsistent with the model that we talked about. The model was that we would come up and listen to these things, and it would not be in public, and then we would then choose to, again, who would then be the ones that would actually then present after we, in essence, heard that. And I think we got very caught up into following the lead of our consultants, but not necessarily doing what, in essence, was a part of our mission. So the model that I suggested was for us all to gather information and then determine who would, in essence, be the speaker. And I don't believe that we had enough time to do that. Second thing is that as it relates to reconciliation, we really didn't hit on anything related to reconciliation. Traditionally, there has never been a problem with people being heard. People were heard for Black Lives Matter. They've been heard. That's how we, in essence, created this concept. Our mission ultimately was to do this experience so that we could get to the place of finding solutions to help the city make changes and adjustments that the city needs to make. And I don't believe that, in essence, we have even set up time today to really have some of those conversations about what our expectations are. The presentations that was presented from the consultants is a great summary of the work that has been done, but it's not very consistent with what the goal was, is to be able to come up with some solutions that was going to get us one step closer. The thing that I did find that was even very surprising but more interesting to me is that these areas are significant topics that you have to find time to educate yourself on. We all know about the police from our own personal experience, but the things that we need to better understand about the police, about education, about housing, that will then allow there to be solutions that you can give to the city that will allow the city to make it better for the community. And I just realized that we spent more time on the system than we actually spent on the other pieces. And when it comes to the reconciliation, a lot of what they're going to be looking for within the presentation is justification of why they should give us additional money to be able to continue the parts of the work that we didn't actually get a chance to do. So I am very appreciative of where we've gotten to. I think in the past 9 months, we've done a lot more as it relates to more results and activity that was done previously. We reduced the issues around, I think, conflict between commissioners. I think that the conflict was, though, created around different factions of the city, which would include us, the consultants, the city council, and the staff, that created challenges for us to be able to move faster than we wanted to. So I'd like to have more of a discussion around the model and more of a discussion around what's next.
Thank you, Commissioner Simmons. We will definitely get into that in the next agenda item. Commissioner Merritt?
Yeah, I want to make sure that what I was going to say was not something for the next agenda item. Chad, something to touch base on what you had said, talking about needing more work on like the solutions. And one of the first thing that popped in my head is that when if someone's doing a truth telling, there has to be some sort of time to process what they've said and thinking of what is the solution or what are the options that we can try to go to a solution, which means that that can be done at the same time as a truth-telling event. It's something that happens later. So again, when we're talking about things we're going too fast, that is maybe something again we can put in place, or part of the recommendation, whatever else, is having that time to process the truth-telling, brainstorm on options for solutions, meet with the key people to help formulate a solution, and then put something potentially in place. But I do agree that we haven't done as much with that kind of reconciliation, the solution part. But again, with the short amount of time, we need more time to do that.
The timer.
Go ahead.
The timer, some type of timer. I like the way the city has that timer for both. I think there should be definitely one for both whoever's speaking, and then for everybody else, so everybody knows they have even amount of time. And then also, I really feel like we should have had it advertised more. To have more people involved would have been a lot better. That was the only other thing that I really had, but yeah, that's it. That's all I have.
Commissioner Gatha, would you like to go before me, or would you like me to go?
I will repeat what I said to Dr. Skula and to us, that fact-finding on the one topic of discrimination and racial injustice in law enforcement and the court system. For me, on that topic, I am satisfied. Of course, we've barely scratched the surface. So when we get to our recommendations, by the time we get there, if it would be right now We haven't touched the other topics that we had listed. But then fact-finding is a work in progress. We continue doing this until we eradicate racial injustice. On truth-telling, yes, we did start, but I'm seeing on our resolution, it's supposed to be multiple times and from many people, and we've barely scratched the surface of that. And either if we continue with doing truth-telling, then we shall continue. And one of the things we'll do different is something like what Cliff has said, laying out the rules and really, for example, the way we usually do it when, as the chair or the vice, or the way the city council does it, to when somebody gets stopped, they stop. So, and the other thing is we, I guess, prepare for the kind of, we pay attention to any escalating, emotionally escalating and triggers if we observe them, and act. So yeah. But at the same time also remember that a retelling of racism triggers, it can actually even lead to, because I do believe, and I applaud ourselves for intervening so that it did not become violent. So just being, it caught me by surprise that it shouldn't have, because I've read and taught on that, but it still did, being part of that. So in future, being aware that it can happen, and sort of be prepared on what to do again. And this is also touching on reconciliation, and also still as part of the truth-telling. Yes, it is great. We did sit in a circle. It was great. But when I looked at what was written by Daily Iowan, in future, we discuss, are we going to have a journalist when we are doing a circle? Because she quoted a direct quote of somebody's pain right there. That one is, it shouldn't happen. And I'm thinking in reconciliation, I'm looking at the charge again, talking of facilitating direct conversation between BIPOC people, groups and the white community. In future, we do, I'm not very trained on circles. I've sat in them. I sat in one way back when I was training as a facilitator of a group, and that was direct. This was between the now Viridian Bank and they were directly having a conversation on how to work with BIPOC people. But so far, in our circles, it hasn't been direct. Actually, it's only one that I attended that I think Donnell was holding brief for Manape, where even the word racism was mentioned. So as we keep moving forward, move towards that, having direct conversations. Easy? No. Oh, yeah. Painful? Of course. So, yeah. So the word I was looking for is that when I realized a journalist was there and they were quoting people, that made it very unsafe and even very harmful to even, especially to the people who are quoted directly. And I will stop there with my processing with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Gathawa. I will go ahead if there's no one else. Did you?
Commissioner Amos, I just wanted to add on a positive information I learned. As one of the truth tellers was talking, he was able to tell us how an interaction with the law enforcement is actually destroying his grandchild. So when we always talk about these things, we talk of police injury, direct physical injury. And that's where sometimes there's a lot of emphasis on that. But because we never have the good data on these impacts on the families, we might underestimate or discount the impact. The data might not reflect that very well. And that, to me, was very, very important. And I believe it's happening out there. Yeah. And that's why there will be a lot of emphasis we'll recommend to the city on training on issues like that, that the process or the mechanisms don't stop when the police has left and gone. They are gone, they didn't hurt you, I think it looks like it was resolved, but the impacts follow you in the long run. Could be a child. The child can develop animosity to the law enforcement. Usually children, when they are in school, the first person their friend is the police officer. I remember my kids when they were 4 or 5 years, they all want to be police officers. You ask them, because they interact with them positively in schools. So they know these are good people who help people when they are in trouble. But the thing turns around at a certain age, the curve goes down. And now you ask them, who wants to be one? They don't want, because now they see them in a different perspective. Some of that could be due to those long-term effects they see in the community and other things. And should be part of the training. There are those who are good at training, whatever. I do not know the extent to which. I've never looked at the curriculum, but it's something I would want to look at in the diversity trainings that they do have and other forms of training. How does the curriculum look like? Does it consider that aspect or not? We as a commission need to know what has the law enforcement been trained on. It's not just about diversity. It's about other things too. So I picked that. That was very important to me. I wanted to add. I also want to talk about inconsistency, but this is, I think, a divergence of opinion on the models we are operating on. I believe in that event we were not going to get enough time to discuss all the resolutions, recommendations, and things like that. Me personally, I was trying to be very patient to listen. I didn't even want to talk. I only talked when I had to ask a question that I think can help me help the commission. And I believe we still have opportunities for those to come from the community, not in the form of truth-telling in gatherings. That's an area we have not even gone into. Yeah. There are people who still want to talk about these things in different forums. So I believe those are the things we will guide our community so that they tell us. And truly, I never believe the commissioners have the solutions. If you think, or if I think as a commissioner that it is me who has the solutions, I'm really, really, really wrong. It never works like that. The solutions are in the community. They are the ones experiencing these things. They are the ones who know the best way to do these things. So we will need to listen to them much more, discuss with them in different forums, especially our groups who are responsible in the initiation of this group, the Black Lives Matter, all those groups who are tangentially with us, but we have to make a great, great effort to work with them. They have some solutions. They are hurting too. So they want to be heard. They want their voices to show up somewhere. And I think that's an area where. So we are a long way. I don't think I want to judge right now that we didn't do anything good in terms of recommendations and other things. We are just starting. Yeah, that's where I am. And I believe the facts are helping us do that very well. Yeah.
Thank you, Commissioner Kiche. And I appreciate what you just said, because I totally agree that we need to hear more from the community. And I think that's one of the things that I learned from this, is that we have worked hard to learn about a process. We practiced the process, or some processes or trials. We were doing pieces of it. And now it's time to really invite the community, to really invite or go to them, not invite them to us go to them, to show them what we've learned and how we would love to work together with them to make what is best for the entire community. So I see that as an opportunity that learning from these events, that we have gotten some great tools, and now we just, not us only, but we need to do more as a community, and that would probably start with the community. There's opportunities for more research and more help from the community. I think it was good and bad. We had an audience. It wasn't exactly the populations that we were wanting to serve the most, the people that we wanted to see there. I mean, there were some, but that was probably the most people we've seen in a while that were engaged with us. And if they're engaged enough to come out 3 times, I think we can utilize those people as volunteers, or however, for whatever we decide we're going to do moving forward for the rest of this year until we are supposed to end in December. So I see that as an opportunity, but I also see that as an area of improvement or weakness if we do not seize that opportunity, as we've been talking about for a while. Some of the good things, the strengths, I thought the process that we saw can work, and it was good. I did really like having the mobile crisis people from the community there. I imagine as we move forward, we'll find better ways to engage with them and find some situations where we could definitely use them. And they were very helpful for us as well. Healing circles, I think most of us agree, are very beneficial, especially on Thursday. And the feedback that I've gotten from people over the last few months is that they want more of those. So I would like to see us find ways to do more of those for our community. From my end, I learned that vetting worked. The 2 people that I was able to have speak, I was able to go through the vetting process. And I don't think we should call it vetting, because we're not trying to decide who has a better story or who is telling the truth. We're just trying to help people curate their truths so that they feel comfortable and safe and are able to speak in public. So I really loved that experience. It was time consuming, but I believe it was very necessary. So that brings me to, I think, on the other side of it, when we don't all collectively do that process, we get surprises, and those surprises can hurt us. And I think we should, if we all collectively agree to do something, we should all do it. That helps me as the chair and the representative of our commission to just put my best forward for everyone here. So I would love for us, if we continue to move forward in this, and we decide that we're going to do something, that we just move forward. And I understand it was a very busy 2.5 months trying to get to what we did. And I think we did a wonderful job with the help of our facilitators, the city, and ourselves to put on some pretty great events, just looking forward. I think a big threat to our process or something that could hold us back is not taking the time that we need. Unfortunately, we were under a time commitment because of our contract. If we had no contract, I'm sure it would have taken a little bit more time or a lot more time. And I do agree with what Chad said, that we did do things a little out of order. I do believe that we should have had more time to talk to people and then come together and say, well, we think that this person should be at a public event, but give everyone an opportunity to speak outside of that. I'd love to see us do more of that moving forward because, as Commissioner Amos said, there are a lot of people that would love to share their truths on multiple topics, and I think they deserve to be heard. I do agree. Advertisement, I was a little disappointed in advertisement. I think that we collectively could do better at getting the word out, but the city, I would appreciate to have a more consistent set of information put out there. Everything was kind of last minute, so I think we've learned what we need to do. And I think I want to point out that these events would not have happened if our facilitators or local facilitators were not on the ground, like putting all the stuff behind the scenes together. So without facilitators or whoever helping us, and Stephanie and Redmond, we would have to do more. And it already was a lot. The final thing I'll say that I think is that I believe for us to move forward and do what's best for the community is being a united front. A North Star, as we discussed so long ago. I think we don't want to get our message muddied up. We want to make sure that we're always framing from racial injustice, because that's what we're here for. That's what our charges are about. I think that moving forward, from my perspective, that's what the recommendations that we're going to be putting out should be centered around. So, yeah, I think those are my thoughts as of right now for as far as debriefing. Does anyone else have any other discussion, other things? Yeah, go ahead.
The only other thing, I just have a thought, and I was wondering what you guys are thinking about, or what you would think about it. I've been brainstorming on groups of people and to go and to meet them at the most peaceful and best places and get the most diverse groups. I was thinking, are there churches that would be willing to let us come in and do times where we sit down and we talk to everybody? Those are usually some of the best places to kind of go to. Everybody's already in a certain mindset, and you got everybody from all over the place coming. If we could get a few churches that are local around here that would be willing to, on a Sunday, possibly give us some time to work that out, I feel like that would be a great idea. So
I love that idea, and I want to keep talking about it. It kind of ties into the next agenda item.
Yep.
If you don't mind, if everyone is okay, I'm going to end this debrief unless there's someone else that wants to talk about it. I'll invite Dr. Schooler or Annie to make any comments at this time. Annie, did you have any comments?
I think one thing that I would say is there are ways that circles are part of reconciliation. Part of reconciliation is having your truth heard and understood by maybe someone who hasn't understood it before. So they can be part of a reconciliation effort. And in talking with Sakawa, she considers healing circles different than talking circles, which have a lot of the same things, but not someone who is holding the spiritual guidance. So I guess I just want to add those to our thinking. Thanks.
Thank you. Dr. Schooler?
Thanks, Chair Dillard. I'm mainly here to listen, but I would want the commission to hear from me directly how proud I am of you all, if I could say that in a way that lands the right way, of what you've achieved. And I hope that as you analyze it in terms of strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, you take a moment to metaphorically or literally pat yourselves on the back. This is an extraordinary achievement, conducting a fact-finding process, conducting truth-telling events, and then finding ways to at least begin the incredibly difficult work associated with reconciliation. And I echo what I think it was Commissioner Merritt, Vice Chair Merritt may have said, which is that there does, I think, need to be time taken at each of these phases to reflect upon what you've heard before you can really meaningfully progress to the next, meaning you've got to have time to absorb the data from fact finding before being certain of how best to conduct truth-telling events, and then take the time to absorb what you heard there before you progress on to efforts at reconciliation, which are complex because in some ways the reconciliation needs to wait for recommendations that this body will have to remedy the problems that you've heard about in truth-telling. And sometimes people won't want to, so to speak, reconcile until they see that happening. But to an additional extent, there could be ways that parties who feel harmed and those who they hold responsible for the harm could be in circle and really reach profound understanding of each other. And to Annie's point, I think it's very important that people who feel that they have been harmed by, in this particular case, law enforcement, be given an opportunity to engage in a way that they feel safe, in the way that they feel protected in terms of being able to speak their truth, but also to understand some of the truth that law enforcement may have. So I do think that's an important next step to take. I just would be remiss if I didn't also say that, to Chair Dillard's point around surprises, I was very surprised by some of what took place on the 21st of March. I did not in any way expect for things to evolve in the way that they did. And I do think that I bear some responsibility for that level of surprise, because perhaps I could have been more inquiring of what was planned there. I've done my best, and I know Laurel and I both have tried to do our best to respect the work of each of the members of our facilitation team and to grant them the same autonomy that I think we've been able to enjoy. But we are, after all, one team to the vast majority of people. There's not a distinction there. And so I just regret that I didn't know more of what to expect, perhaps so as to mitigate it, but at least to be more prepared for it. And I do still feel some pain around some of what took place there that I'll have to, work on my own. So I just wanted to share that with you all, but I appreciate the space. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for everything as well, too.
Okay, well, if there's no other comments on the debrief section, I'll go and open it up to public comments. If there's anyone online, I can't tell if there's anyone else besides. Please raise your hand. Okay, no one has raised their hand, so I'll go ahead and move on to our discussion on agenda item number 6, phase 2, and I believe I'll turn it over back to Cliff to continue next step suggestions.
Yeah, when it comes down to our local churches, I think that would be a great idea. People are coming in there and they are from many different backgrounds, and you can go to certain places where you have more of one demographic to another, but the whole point is that if we were to take the circle aspect and then add that in, I feel like that'd be really helpful, because it connected everybody. I feel like we all got a little bit more connected to each other and hearing everybody's truth, everybody's own personal truth themselves, even if it was short and sweet, and if we had to take away the religious aspect of it a little bit more and just only stick with that structure, I think that would be a great idea. So reaching out to our local churches, they would be great advertisement. They would be great places to kind of get a hold of as many people as possible and get the word out. So for future reference, if we could advertise possibly through the churches, would be a great idea. And I don't really see any negative output really coming from that. Everybody usually comes there in good spirits and usually leaves in good spirits. That's one of the reasons why they make it there anyway. So, and then a little valuable lessons can be taught in there as well too, because there's a lot that we can learn from religion that can be thrown in there a little bit as well too, as long as it's not overlapping too much. That's all. So, I think I don't have anything else with that. That's all I have for right now. I'll think about it a little bit more and then add on.
One thing I was thinking, to piggyback on what you're saying, is that one thing, that's their safe space. So that already kind of sets the foundation of some truth telling, that they feel safe there. You know, we're coming in as the visitor rather than having them come to us or even to our event. That's not their safe space. So by going to the church there, they already have their family, their community, you know, they have their support, and puts us in the place to listen. And I think that's a valid point that we need to continue with.
I really support and I like that idea very much. We know in the history of U.S., religion has played a very important thing in terms of justice, education, and health. And it's a model that actually those who read models of engagement and development and other things have just come to realize. I'm an economist, and these are things we used not to consider, but we've come to realize that those models of engagement, either in cultural events, religious institutions, or faith institutions, are very powerful. We haven't seen any other model that works better than that in terms of putting people together. And at some stage, we were not taking it very serious, but it's good, Commissioner Cliff, you put it back again to us again, and we will explore different models we can use, how best to use it, how best to go to them, how to facilitate it with our facilitators, and maybe after their service, there's a lunch or an evening, whatever they want to work with. We have to use their models. That's why they go to church. There isn't anybody out here that gathers more people in a building than a church. So we have to be very realistic. We will also go beyond the church, and communities, youth groups, and the different groups also, what they are working in with. 2 commissioners can go, or 1, the people they are comfortable with, at different times. So as we will come to discussion on the budget, I think these are things that will inform us better. That is a powerful model, but we have also to think of other models of engaging our people to hear from them.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. So as we move forward, just thinking about what we want to see before our time here ends for this ad hoc version of our commission. Now, I know a few of us have talked many times that we believe that this should live on, but what do we want to achieve and be able to hand to the public before, this ends? And now, again, if it is in our recommendations that this commission is revived as a full and true commission that is permanent in the city, then we can make that. But as of right now, we have until December 31st. I was challenged earlier this week to just think about how I feel our North Star is, what is like my vision for the commission, and I would love for us to talk about that as a group, because again, I really don't believe that we can be successful unless we're united, and these last few months are going to be few months left are going to be important, and we need to all be in agreement on how we want to move forward. This has been, the last 7 months has been a lot of work, and I'm not looking for us to have to add on more work, and that's why I'm really excited about the engagement that we got the last few weeks, and I'm hoping that we can add on to that with people that are eager to jump on board with what we are. So on the fourth page that Annie provided with us is the North Star framing question that we talked about a long time ago. And I still believe this is like our North Star, like our guiding vision when we're trying to do this work for the community right now. I also believe that if this commission becomes permanent, it could change. But I'm going to read it. It says, how can we strategically build capacity and amplify the voices of BIPOC and ethnically oppressed peoples in order to express their truths, all while addressing historical oppression, genocide, racism, and the need to deconstruct colonial systems, ultimately creating foundations for safer spaces for healing and empowerment? It's still a mouthful, but I think it touches every piece of what our charges say. Does anyone agree or disagree?
Absolutely, I agree.
Okay. And so, moving forward, thinking about how if we take that vision and just showcase to the community a piece of that over the next 6 months, what could that mean for 20 years from now? What could our impact mean for Iowa City's community in bridging the gap within racial injustice in our community? So what does that look like for us? My view, and I know Commissioner Simmons is going to talk about his model. I'll let him go after this, but my view is we take what we've learned and we adjust this model and we implement it over the next few months. But I think we need to go deep into the community, underground, if you may, where we're going and we're having those individual meetings with people so they can tell their truth. We need to connect with the University of Iowa and the historians and the people that have the knowledge to get the facts, the housing commissions that have been working for a decade, if not more, on gathering the information so we can come back and present what we've found so far. In my mind, we spend summertime doing that, going to different events and all that, but not just us, the people in the community that want to work with us. So between now and maybe June, it's very important that we reconnect those connections. And then later on this year, we can choose to do another or one or two public events from those curated people. I'm hoping that we have by then have had an opportunity to sit down with multiple, like tens of people to share their truth on camera or behind the scenes with a small group of us or whoever, with organizations, and then invite people the correct way to come share that in a public setting and form a presentation around whatever topic we choose to move forward. And then over that course of that time, working with the people in the community to help us get the data that we believe is missing in whatever topics we choose, to present the recommendations that we'll have to start working on now, slowly, to present fully to the City Council. Now, to do all that, we're going to need some dollars, which we've already asked for a budget, but we'll need to itemize, or whatever the right word is, line out what exactly we want that to be. But vision-wise, I am hoping that we all can leave a legacy of hope that lasts generations. But if not, like if I leave this city and come back in 20 years, know that we made an impact and it started because of the protesters 4 years ago almost. So that's my thoughts on it, and I'll let you all talk about what you think we should do moving forward. I see that Chad has his hand up, and I'm going to turn it over to you, Chad.
So my question is that what is the message that we're attempting to deliver based on the vision that you have for us over the next 9 months? What is the message that we're attempting to deliver on April 16th to the City Council?
So I'm glad that you brought that up. I was hoping that we wouldn't have to do that that message on April 16th. I was hoping that we'd have a little bit more time to really sit down and discuss at least what our plan is. As we're talking right now, I don't believe that we have enough time to deliver that. But if we are going to have to speak, the message is that we've learned, we have tested, and we know that we need to do more. That's how I see it right now. And that the Iowa City community deserves more, and we are ready to show them what is possible.
If the last question just about this, sorry for interrupting, but the last question is that if we do not get the money in April or in May, is that a showstopper for the work that we need to do?
No,
No.
absolutely not.
I'm going to agree with my fellow commissioners. I believe it would be a challenge, as we all know, because there's a lot of things that need to happen for for us to move forward, as you asked, Chad. But if the city of Iowa City would like us to do the work that they asked us to, then we need the money to move forward.
I have thoughts. For one, yes, if our city is going to say that we are such a progressive city, we need to hold them accountable to it and stick with that and be progressive and do some outside the box thinking. And there's always sponsorships too. I was just thinking about the shows that we throw for boxing. When we do shows for boxing, we get sponsorships from some of the local restaurants and local businesses and things like that, where people are willing to donate money to help us put on events or to buy equipment or to do anything else along those lines. If we are really serious about this and not wanting this to die out, regardless, the city should support us in every way possible, because it's only going to benefit and bring everybody together a little bit more. But there's always local businesses, and there's always businesses who are bigger, who might be willing to help us. If we have an organized plan like we've been working on, we can make this an annual thing. We can make this going on every. My thought on it is throughout the year, every few months, have some type of circle, some type of gathering, and that's where these businesses that come into play, they can sponsor and help provide food, help provide entertainment, things like that, just make our city a more pleasant environment. If you have these situations going on, people will feel a lot more comfortable, they'll feel a lot more open, and then people are a lot nicer to each other and better to each other because they've seen each other around more often. So I definitely see this moving forward in a positive direction.
Go ahead, Chad.
Commissioner Johnson, I very much disagree. If our charter is to provide recommendations to the city for the city to make changes to themselves, and the city chooses that of the $1 million that we're not going to be able to have access to the 600,000 that is remaining, then isn't that simply saying that they don't necessarily believe in the work that we're doing? Aren't they communicating to us by their inaction that they don't believe in the work? And if they are communicating that, right, then why should we continue to move forward if the group that brought us together no longer supports us?
I believe because it's our duty, period. And if they don't support us, they will eventually, or we will do it ourselves, and they'll look the way they look for not supporting us. And that's their choice. But I believe personally, if we've already started the fire, we got to make sure it burns. And there's no reason why we should back off because we don't have their support. I think their support, if we're such a united city that is so progressive, let's hold them to it. I go right back to it and say it every day and all the time and every one of our meetings, put it in a paper, put it everywhere we can. Our voice can't be dampened unless we go quiet. So they can make that choice, but that's their choice, and then they're going against being such a progressive city. And then you got to wear that label. That's what I believe personally.
I wanted to add to that, Chair.
Of course.
Based on experience and history, much of the social changes movements never come from the government. And we do not want to spend or really put all our eggs in one basket in the way we think, in the way we act and implement things. Communities have always asked for these things, even when sometimes they don't get any money from the government. We are just fortunate that this local government cities are willing to work with us on this. But we cannot only act when they want. There are things we can do on our own in the communities ourselves. Many of us here are doing community things that sometimes are making changes in people's lives. They don't get a dollar or a cent from the government. And the model of the government, that if the government does not want to work with you, then you stop, is a fallacy. And if we want to make changes, I think let's look at history, our history. When I say the history of the black movement, you say, I'm an immigrant, so sometimes I don't want to put myself there because I've not been there, my parents were not here to go through that. History always tells us these things, what has worked. And private organizations doing things on their own, working with those who are willing to work with them, really make changes. And we do things in the communities. I remember in our African communities network, sometimes we have to do a study ourselves, even with innocent. Somebody just volunteering. What's the problem with child abuse or something among our groups? We don't wait for Johnson County. They try to help us. Actually, they come, but we have to work with them. If they don't want, we will tell them what our people are saying. If they want to do something about it, they can do about it. But at least we've done the message, and we try to have our educational programs among ourselves if we can. Yeah. So I do not see us getting into a situation where the city is not going to work with us. Yeah. I think they have signaled to us that different times. But it doesn't mean we don't do our work. They have a right to say no or stop the thing if they think we are not rigorous or we are, let me use the word playing around in quotes. Yeah. If they think all the sense that we are playing around, they can easily say no because we are using public funds. This is public people's money we are using here, and we don't have a right to it. Of course, we can claim a right to it because of the injustices and other things as a form of compensation, but they are people's money, so I just believe we'll work with them very well, but we have to be very regular, like Commissioner Chairs said, on the North Star framing. What is it that we are doing that's going to have a legacy next time? If we do a shady job, who would want us or want anything like that again? Yeah. So we have to be very serious. To me, I'll take it very serious and very rigorous as to the best of my abilities, what I've learned in school, what I've learned in the society, and what I can learn from the community to do the best I can do in terms of informing ourselves, putting down a framework that somebody can follow next time. We read textbooks. Textbooks are written for other people to read and learn more. So this thing we are working on, the commission report, another thing, is it something that we want people to learn from in the future, our kids to learn from, say, they did this, but here there were a lot of gaps. Let's improve on this. So we have to really be very serious, like Chair said, stick to our staff framing and do the best we can do. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Simmons, did you have your hand raised?
Just want to say this just so that it is a part of the record. I do understand the ability for us to want to be able to do the work. I just want to remind us that we're doing the work under the commission that was put together by the city. If we don't do what, in essence, is consistent with what the city wants, then we're going rogue and doing. And I don't mind doing that, but I wouldn't want to do it underneath the city. I would say that we're going to form a separate group, and we're choosing to do it separately. That we're not going to be leveraging and using resources of the city, and that's us to be able to achieve our own separate agenda. The North Star is fine, and I think it's a sense of word salad. But what guides us is what we were, as a commission, put together. We have 9 months to do it. I just say that if we're not going to get the resources, if the city shows any sign, and I think they've shown many, but if they show any sign they're not supportive of the work that we need to do, then it's going to definitely have an impact on whether I choose to continue or not. So I just want to make sure that that's crystal clear, that whatever the conversation that does happen, whether we get the resources or not, has a clear impact on me, because I can do the work and have been doing the work outside of the city without having to follow any of the city rules. The rules that are put in place for good reason, but I'm not willing from a commission perspective to go rogue and do something that's outside of what the commission was put in place to do.
Why wouldn't the city work with us at this point? Let's talk about that. What's the reason and why the city won't work with us? Because that's what I would like to know. What's everybody's thoughts
Well,
on
I
that?
think, well, if I would just give you mine quickly, is that the city will work on them. But if it took us 2 years, in essence, to be able to get money, then it's showing that there was some challenge and discrepancy, in essence, even getting money to do consulting. We struggled when it came to even a part of having a pause so that we could really sit down and think about the work that we're doing. We had to rush through to be able to put together, based on the contract, the way the contract was written, we had to rush together to put things together. We made a recommendation in January for money. We all agreed in January. It is now April. We still have not heard on that recommendation. So I'm just simply saying the city is speaking to us. There has to be a point where they make a decision. Right now, they don't have to do anything. So that's what I'm seeing from my end, is that we traditionally have been delayed as far as moving forward with the things that we're supposed to do to achieve the mission that's been given to us.
I believe we've accomplished a lot under all of that chaos, and I feel like that's something that the city has to recognize, and the people have to recognize as well too. We've done a lot with everything that has taken place, and I feel like because this has been our first run, it should be understood that there was gonna be some trips and some stumbles, but the job still got done. And when I was in the Marines, it's like you have a mission to accomplish, you have a job to do, and there's many different ways of accomplishing that mission, but the job is to get the mission done. And I feel like we will represent ourselves well, and in that, hopefully, the city will recognize that and work with us. But at the same time, if worst case scenario, we are still going to keep working regardless. The more we bring each other together, the better we'll be. So that's my own personal thoughts with that.
I have some thoughts on answering your question, and I will start this out with saying this is my personal opinion, but we are still looking at a political entity. We are looking at one who's, the fiscal year ending in June, starting July, looking at just the news and the environment and of money, and even though that money is that was set aside, the $1 million, and there was specific targets that money was supposed to fund, though it's still kind of broad, and I feel that there are probably some people who feel that they have an agenda that could also be financed with it. And I can see somebody saying, well, this is a great start. We have a good idea, which actually we've kind of set the pace. Somebody else could take it and run with it, if they had the, if somebody else had the money and somebody so I hate being pessimistic about, but I mean, this environment right now is, money's tight and people might want to have the money go elsewhere. Not thinking, they still believe that we did a good job, believe of what we did, and that it's something that needs to be done more, but I can still see somebody piping up and having, or maybe when you have it already laid out, and just waiting for the money to be funneled that direction.
I believe that. I say fight back. That's all there is to it. I'm sure there's agendas. I know that there's political agendas at every angle, in everything. Well, we got one too. And there's no reason for us not to fight back to try to keep whatever we might have or was promised to us to possibly make our city a better place. If they want to go against that, that's fine. But I am a fighter, and that's how I say we need to roll, fight back.
Yeah. I guess I'm not saying it as that they're going against us, but they basically they want something else to kind of go along, and it's now their turn to whatever else. But that's, like I said, that's just my personal opinion. I hope that's not what will happen. I hope they will see what we have and what we have laid out for the next, 9 months and what we can do. But just that little devil's advocate, a little cynical mind.
Understood.
Yeah.
It goes back to my thought pattern of we should definitely fight to make sure that this commission continues on. This should be a permanent thing. I've said this on the record over and over again, and I stand by it. There's no such thing as, oh, well, we've gotten those truths out and it's over and move on. No. This is something that there's always going to be truth, that there's always going to be reconciliation that's going to be needed. And this is something that needs to be funded and taken care of. It's a part of our community. It's the way to keep peace. If not, then what happens when it all erupts again with the next situation? What are we, just Groundhog Day in it? I don't think that's, ice skating uphill all the time don't make sense to me. If we can start finding the source and start dealing with the source and fight as much as we can to move it forward, then so be it. That's very optimistic. I know, I get it, but somebody's got to do it. We gotta set our feet in the ground, set our stance, and then move forward as much as we can. Those have done it before us, and that's how we got here.
I just wanted to add on staying positive. If there's a situation where we signal that we are not committed to our vision, we are not taking this seriously in our personal, internally, as we look at it, we can be manipulated. And there could be people playing games of interest or opinions, motivations that actually sometimes undermine us. I guess if there are anything like that, I am not saying there is in our commission here, but if there is anything like that or attempts of that nature, we will recognize that. The commission will recognize that and will do the best it can do to thwart that. Failure to get to 50,000 that was proposed at one time, probably the blame cannot be put on the city itself. It could be that we didn't write a good budget. I don't even know, I was not a commissioner by then, but I know the commission approved that. I do not know how the budget was presented to them, what we wanted to do with it. This is a government entity. They always follow procedures on how to spend money. Even when we are spending our money for tea here, breakfast, lunches, we always have to account for those things. So if we don't do our budgeting very well, if our house is not in order in a certain way, either because of some reason, the city will be reluctant. That does not mean they don't want to work with us. But there could be the other aspect that you're talking about. So that's why I'm talking about the issue of REGA. If they are not seeing any REGA in us, we will be manipulated. But we have to tell them that we are aware of anything that is likely to happen around, a different interest that can be there. And we do not want anybody to waste the time of commissioners here. And I believe that is not where we are going. And that's not going to happen. We also have to indicate and signal to the community that, well, it is the city, they are the ones who have the money, but who said that they are the ones who decide what people do on earth? That if they don't want this based on the contract, other people cannot do it in another way. I don't think getting justice or anything about these things rests solely on the city. And the second thing, who is the city? The city is us. We elect them. It is not something that came from heaven. We elect the city. So when we are talking about the city, we are also saying we are also thinking like that, because the city is supposed to express our opinions. They're supposed just to guide us on how we use our resources and improve our well-being in the community. That's what the city's job is. I don't think what we are doing here can be contrary to that. And as far as we express that, they have always been working with us, with other communities, improving lives in Iowa City. That's why it is a good place. I do not imagine those things or somebody thinking like that having ulterior motive. And that's why I insist on completing our mission to the best of our abilities. Those who are here, if we get tired, I get lamed somewhere, I can't do something for some reason, we get help from another person, and then using resources in the community, the university, schools, health or departments, or whatever, so that we talk about these things. And we know it is a contract. There's something to be delivered. And that contract does not say that, well, you are not supposed to do anything else or obtain resources from somewhere else. That was not part of the contract. I want to be a commissioner here if actually the other resources are supposed to come from somewhere else because I'm volunteering. So they believe there are going to be resources also that are helping, skills. It's not just money, skills, knowledge, experiences that are going to come in here that are coming from the community. Of course, they hold the contract with the facilitators. That is regarding financing. So our 250 request has to be put in nicely to continue with the activities, the new models of engaging the community that are going to come up. Yeah, so they're supposed to finance those things. That is the purpose of the 1 million. Yeah. There is nowhere where they say all that junk of 200 or 400 has to go towards the end of everything only. It's part of the process, financing the process, so that the process is clear to the community that actually we have problems. But if all the money goes towards some area, some end, based on some interest, I'm not saying this because I have no information that whether that is really true. I don't even believe it. Then I don't see a reason why we should be denied that. So it is the responsibility still rests on us to prepare a good budget, a good plan of what we want to do with the remaining amount of money. And issues of compensation, reconciliation, budgets are long-term things. That's going to be partly in the responsibility of the city. But we have to recommend something based on facts. So that's where we want to use the 250. So we have to really insist and tell them, well, this is our good plan, and these are the genuine things we want to do in the community to generate information, talk to people, hear people, create events that are long-term sustainable events, models that are sustainable in the future, so that once we give them the document, it's a living document for the city and for the community, something the community can work on next time, so that the city doesn't just put it somewhere there in their saving, whatever saving. I don't know where they keep their records, wherever, that you have to dig deep and find if you want to know. So, but let's just be positive and optimistic. That's what I can recommend.
Also, fundraising. Why don't we just, whatever money that we are taking out, of course we need money, and we need money to get things started. There's money already there. Let's start working towards fundraising as well, too. Make this a bigger thing. It needs to be. And we need a start, and the money's there to start us. But let it be known that this is chapter 1 in the book. You get me? This is chapter 1, just like he was saying before. There's a lot of holes that we have, but we started from scratch. So each chapter can get better and better, but we need a start. And a start is the funding that we have from the city. From there, the more we get just in this conversation that we've had, I've already been thinking about new ideas, new thoughts, just like the rest of you guys. And there's no reason why we can't figure out a better way. But we need the funding. We need the city to help us out with the money that they said that they would help us out with. Just hold them to it, that's all. If they want to go and deviate away because they have other agendas, then they, like I said, put it on a record. That's all. But we have a plan. They asked us to come up with a plan. They asked us to stick with something. We did. We're doing it. Let's go. That's how I see it. So
I really appreciate all these conversations. I definitely see all sides to it, and I hope that we are able to get the funding. I do believe that there are other alternatives. I see Commissioner Simmons' perspective and Commissioner Johnson's perspective. The only thing I can say is we'll have to cross that bridge when we get there. From my perspective. But I do agree that this work is very important, and I'm going to go back to the biggest thing we've been lacking is the community support. So the more community support that we have, the more likely that we would get the funding we need anyways. And how could the city deny a ton of people that are saying that they want this? I, in this conversation, had a thought that maybe a way that would alleviate pressure on us, maybe what we should do is start with healing circles and do them monthly in different areas of the community, because people are getting a lot for them. Really make sure that they're focusing in on racial injustice, because that is our purpose. And then from there, we'll find people naturally who will want to engage in either truth telling or maybe learn some more facts or get involved. This is a practice that I would do in my daily work as a community outreacher and activist. So I feel like if we really need the community building, it can't just be us. That's how we get burned out. That's how I get burned out. I don't know about you all. But to make a movement, you need people to move along with.
One note that I wrote down here in the corner, when we think about budget and whatever else, and how we weren't happy about how things were advertised for our events and everything. We need an advertising budget so that we can put an ad in the paper, whatever it costs. We can actually put an ad in the paper for something that's going on, things that obviously require some money. So I was thinking definitely have a line item that is the advertising budget that we can utilize to get the word out for our events.
I mean, I hear you all when you say advertising, but our people don't look at that stuff. It's word of mouth. That's why I believe we need to be in the community. We go to the churches, they bring their families and their friends. Then they talk about it and they say, want to go do it. The woman that I brought her 4 friends, and they made her stay for the healing circle because they wanted to be there because they saw the impact. They're talking about it and they want to include it in their own areas. Word of mouth, I believe, is stronger than, we should have an advertising budget, but it's word of mouth is, again, my day work. That's how we get people to things. Food and word of mouth.
I agree with word of mouth, definitely, but I also still stand by I know everybody thinks it's weird, the digital billboard, because I feel like information it's not given out. That's the one thing that I've heard the most when I've spoken with everybody, and word of mouth is that reminds me of me telling my people what's going on, but then they'll say, well, I didn't hear about it from anywhere else in the city. You get me? So I feel like I'm strong on this billboard thing, and I don't mean a paper billboard, I mean a digital billboard of some sort that we can interchange and make visually pleasing to catch the eye, where the entire city can walk around and say, I know I can go there for information. I know I can find out what's going on here. I know I can find out what's going on there. And it can easily be, I stand by that wholeheartedly. We need some type of, I know the city has or correct me if I'm wrong, there's like laws against having any kind of digital billboards in our city limits. Only reason why I'm bringing this up is because when I was first looking at the location of the gym, I remember them saying something about you're not allowed to have a certain size of a digital billboard because of city regulations. Stephanie, do you know possibly anything about that?
That sounds familiar.
Yeah, it was a long time ago, but I heard that you can't have that. These are other small little avenues to go and see if we can possibly change that. And then I know that's another, whoa, you're asking for a lot of money and that's going to cost this and that and the third. But at the same time, if it helps bring up the city, that digital billboard that they have in Cedar Rapids, that's on the side of that.
It's a sign company,
Yeah.
but it's their signs.
Well, you know, where there's a will, there's a way. That's all. Where there's a will, there's a way. And we can figure out, and this is what I mean. If there's a company out there that sees what we're doing, they see the positivity, and they see we're doing this right here in this little part of Iowa, in the center of the country, but we're making positive change, people are willing to step up and help out. They come out of the woodworks. It's just what it is.
One thing we can also do to utilize people who do have digital signs, because I've got a previous job or whatever else, but asked Hills Bank in North Liberty on their sign if they could, put it was advertising an event, and they did.
Yeah.
So people drive by, they see it, whatever else. Those are the kind of things that we could, and that didn't cost anything.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. And, the more people see things, like, you might have saw our Truth and Reconciliation symbol once, and you're like, oh, there's that. But if you see it over and over and over and over again and constantly, and it has a bunch of positive information behind it, and it shows the progress that we're making, that's how people get involved. But if you don't give them the opportunity to learn about it and you don't give them the information, then they're going to go about their average everyday life because we're all stressed out. We all got a lot going on. But if you have it constantly in their face, it can definitely move in the right direction. So I stand by the billboard. I love word of mouth because that is the number one way about going about things. But I also believe that we need to have somewhere or a few different places that no matter what part of the city you're in, we are connected.
So I agree. We should make friends. If we can ever figure out money for a billboard, sure, I'm okay with that. I don't know about the money, but we
I would say
could get a
recommendation
banner.
to the city for
Oh,
that.
okay.
Not necessarily us and
Not
off
us.
of our budget. I'm saying that's something that the city itself
Should do.
invest in.
Okay,
Because
I see
how
what you're
else are we gonna know that there is a human rights committee or a, meeting at any time for anywhere? We don't know this stuff. Everybody's walking and going to and from and they're rushing by. But sitting right at my gym, I see the cars that sit there and they're sitting there doing nothing for a while, but if you had a digital sign, not even necessarily there or anywhere else, like even somewhere out here, that there's always information for you to read. And you know that's a location that you can see it. That's something that we should recommend also to the city as well. I think that is a very positive investment that could go, that goes for everybody. That's not just us.
Schools have them.
It's a good way. Part of the reason why people of color don't come to certain things is because they just don't have.
No.
They're not exposed to it as much. So yeah, that's an equity issue. I agree with that. I think all these are great ideas, and I think we should still keep coming up with them. I think we need to talk about one, April 16th, the city has set that as the date that they would like us to present our updates or recommendations or what we've learned. I personally feel that we need more time. That's 10 days from now. And with the way my life is in the next 10 days, I don't have time to really focus on that. So if we were to move forward with that, all of us would need to really dive into that. I would love for us to propose to the city that we are able to circle back and give them more information in May about our plans. Not saying we can't do things in the meantime, but really just then we can have an exact plan to showcase this is what we're doing the rest of the year, is what I would like to propose. Thoughts on that?
So we want to tell the city that we have the information, but we just want to come better prepared? Is that what we're trying to do?
Exactly. We asked for the 250,000. I believe that we should have line items that say exactly what we want to use the 250,000 for. So that helps your case when you're asking someone for money. I don't believe we have time to dive into that right now. I don't want to dive into that right now because it could be a lot of different things. That is a conversation that we should be better prepared for. I think we've had a lot of good plans. I think we're getting closer to consensus, but kind of having it well laid out is not going to happen coming from me in the next 10 days. Now, if we all collectively worked on it, maybe, but we won't have any time because we won't meet until after the 16th to discuss all in the same room and agree upon that this is what we want to do moving forward. So we'd have to make a decision today to either allow one person or a couple people decide what we're going to do or try to have conversations in between, and that just doesn't seem feasible. Yeah.
Is there room for me to say something?
Is it based on the email from earlier?
Yes.
No.
Oh, okay.
We've already talked about it. Go ahead, Annie.
No, it's okay. At some point, I can wait after, whenever there's public comment.
Public comment? Just go ahead and say what you wanted to say.
I guess what I want to say is one way of looking at April 16th is that's when the facilitation team has to report on what they accomplished within the contract to the city council. And then when you were at one of the joint meetings, you said it would be great if we could do that together. I'm suggesting that definitely you guys could be part of that presentation, but it doesn't have to be that you are using that date as your deadline to present your plan for the rest of the year.
Okay.
It technically is our deadline, and you guys can do anything you want within that, which is why we put this together so that you guys could have input, but it doesn't have to be your plan, your presentation of your plan.
It's just showing them that we have a plan and we're moving, correct?
Well,
So the
I think that what it's showing is the city is saying, you consultants, we contracted with you to do something. You need to get back to us and do a report.
Yeah.
If you guys were ready, it could also be the time when you guys said, yeah, we did all that and now we're going to do this. But if you're not ready, I think the minimum is that it's on us to do, here's what we did.
Yeah, I think that sounds like
So that
makes a
gives you
lot of
more
sense.
time.
I like that.
That makes sense. Go ahead, Larry.
Lord, I apologize if I'm seeming to kind of veer in a different direction than Annie, but I'm really needing some clarity, and I'm hoping Redmond might be able to speak to this if he's still in the meeting, because Annie just now was presenting kind of a framework that's different than what I understood for the presentation. I mean, when the TRC gave an update to the city council last fall, I want to say it was in November, maybe, obviously that was a TRC presentation. Consultant team contributed either words on slides or slide content to that presentation. We discussed it ahead of time. And then, if I remember correctly, most of us were either there virtually or in person, but just for support. I don't remember, speaking at all. That's what I thought we were aiming for as it relates to whatever date this presentation takes place on. Annie's framing there makes it appear as if it's a presentation delivered by the consultant team. And so I'm trying to understand what the city believes to be our obligations under the contract relative to the presentation.
Redmond is going to come over and answer.
Thanks.
Sit here.
I could stand. So it sounds like there's everyone's saying very similar things. Maybe the points are maybe nuanced or something that we're missing it. But the contract speaks to a joint effort to put together a closing of the activities and recommendations that this experience that the facilitators have brought to you to a close. Now, you continue on after that point, which I think lends to what Andy's saying, to at least December, right? Because that's what your mandate gives you to that time with the extension that the council has granted. So I think to Larry's point, the contract speaks to a collaborative process of some sort, which I think is up to the facilitating team and the TRC to really say what that looks like. The idea is what work has been done to this point, and at the end of the day, what recommendations, at least from the truth-telling, fact-finding, reconciliation process, what recommendations moving forward would this process yield? So that's my understanding.
And Redmond, I'm sorry, I don't want to take too much time on the floor here, but is it, do you think it's your or the city council's expectation that the consultant team, that the facilitation team is offering recommendations as to how the TRC should continue its work? Because I think there's a substantial difference between that and what we were assisting with before. Obviously, it was a presentation that just said, here's what the TRC has been up to. In other words, there's a report of progress, and then there's a report of progress plus what we recommend from a process perspective happen once we leave the stage. So I'm asking whether you think we are being expected to deliver those kinds of recommendations in our presentation.
Because I just listened to you. It sound like I want to say yes, but there was a lot of nuances in your explanation. So
it's really just kind of an A, a B, or an all of the above, and it sounds like you're in the all of the above.
that's kinda right.
But yeah, I mean, A is just we help the TRC compile everything that they've done in the last 7 or 8 months. B is we enumerate a bunch of things that we think the TRC, as well as maybe the city, think about as the TRC finishes its work the rest of the year. And then C is all the above, meaning we do both of those things. We help report on the progress of the TRC, but we also offer recommendations. So I hear you saying do both.
Absolutely. So, and I think maybe to the earlier point, if you're looking at those recommendations to be like, very strict policy type of recommendations, I think those type of things can be presented to the city council before your December mandate. So I agree, ABC, all the above, and what I also hear is a desire to have very pointed, systematic recommendations that can be held up from policy levels from the city council standpoint. And I think there's time for that. It doesn't necessarily have to happen here. If you allude to some of those things, that's fine. But I think you probably want to have more maybe truth-telling or taking processes, and you want to still be gathering. This is just kind of the process that gave you the framework, or at least recommending a certain framework, and you move forward to December, right? And
and just so that I'm clear, the recommendations that I'm referring to are not policy recommendations for the city council to consider in light of truth telling. They are process recommendations for the TRC to continue carrying out its work. So everybody understands what I meant.
Good to go.
Good.
So my question is, because Annie suggested that we do this progress report on the 16th with Kearns and West and our facilitation team, but my concern is our commission, I believe we're not ready to talk completely about what our plan is moving forward. So would we be able to, after that April 16th date, have another date in May
Yeah.
where we can come back and say, and here's what our plan is, and this is what we ask, this is why we asked for this 250,000 and lay it out.
Yeah,
That's- okay.
I think that's totally appropriate.
Okay, so if we can do that, then that feels a lot better to
Yeah,
me.
Absolutely, that makes sense.
Confirming, so that I'm 100%. The guidance the TRC is giving us is to, as a facilitation team, prepare a presentation to give to the city council on the 16th. That is both a report on your progress and a set of recommendations for how you all should continue once our contract ends.
And that would be jointly, is what you're saying, Larry? Or,
I mean, I anticipated it would be, Chair, yes. I mean, I was
Okay.
assuming that we would develop
Yes.
the skeleton of the presentation and then share it at least with you and the Vice Chair. I mean, obviously, time is of the essence and we don't have another meeting, but presuming you could be entrusted to review it and so on, and look at it from the standpoint of reporting your progress, I think that was what I had envisioned, at least.
Show our work and then strengthen it. Yeah, that makes sense.
So just want to be clear, is that still on the 16th or we are talking of another date?
No,
Because-
that's still the 16th,
Okay.
it sounds like.
I think what we're saying, Commissioner, is that that would be reported on the 16th, but a more detailed set of requests or line items for your work going forward would happen perhaps at the first meeting in May when you had more time to deliberate.
Okay, and in your recommendation, you'll be doing your soul searching to evaluate yourself and recommend how much progress you've made and what do you think you can guide us on as facilitators? And you have a better sense of achievements or performance of what we are doing than we. Yeah,
There's quite a bit, and I do want to credit Annie and VFix Marias who have already taken pen to paper on some ideas for that, and I don't want to speak for them, but I mean, I just think that I've listened to a lot of your conversation tonight and have some thoughts. And look, I mean, this is obviously an extremely complex endeavor. The substance is, but so is the mechanics of doing it. And so, that's really what I'm going to spend my time on in the next week, crafting, so that we leave you well equipped to finish your work the rest of the year.
Commissioner Simmons?
Commissioner Simmons.
You're muted if you're talking to us, Chad.
Oh, I didn't know that you were called on me.
Okay.
Listen, folks, these are political individuals. The meeting for them is not just simply to give a presentation. This is not a good idea. It's not good for us. I would strongly recommend that you don't, until you go to them with a full plan, that you don't present anything. This is not good for us.
I don't agree with that at all.
Would you like to elaborate why you feel this way, Commissioner Simmons?
Commissioner Johnson, I think again, we're going to find out. This is political. It's a political environment. These are not like our bosses. This is political. They have $600,000 available to them. Some of the people that are on this commission were not, some people on the board were not on the board before. I'm saying that what they're looking for is, we gave the commission a charter of things that we wanted them to do. Now the goal is that we want to see how you are as it relates to how close you are as it relates to bringing us recommendations to the city. And so it's not just about the presentation about what stuff we learned. That we're not in grammar school. It's not about that. It's about how what we learn in essence is going to be beneficial and why the benefits are of such value that you should give us more money. So
Where do you see that?
my suggestion, go ahead.
I'm sorry. No, I didn't mean to cut you off. I apologize. Go on.
No, I'm fine. You had a valid question. Go ahead. What's your question?
Where do you see that we are not doing that at this point?
The goal was for us to be able to provide recommendations. We spent $400,000 on consultants. Their question is, because, was it of great value? And if it's not of great value, should we give them more money? Now, there can be a lot of reasons why we can justify it is or it isn't, but that's the question that politically they're handling. Should they invest more money in this given project? Is it of good interest? So if you just simply go with the consultant, if you simply go with the consultant's presentation, which I looked at, which is the first phase, we taught them how to do it. The second phase, we showed them how to do it. That's not going to be enough information for them to believe that, in my opinion, that we're headed down the right path. I would give them more. And I would not separate it. I would put it together. But if you believe that that they can share the information and it's going to be of great value to the city council, then by all means, please move forward. I just don't think it's a smart move.
Chad, I agree with you. I would much rather us do all this together in May when we have more time. But we've been told from the city that contractually we have to do this on April 16th. I personally don't feel that we have time to get all that together. But if you know of a better way to pull it all together by the 16th, I'm all ears.
To the city, go to Jeff, go to the mayor. Say we want to move the date. Just go and have the conversation about moving the date.
I mean, I'm working on that. So those are already options in the works. But if those are met with, we cannot move the dates, and contractually our facilitators, consultants have to present on the 16th. What would you do?
The consultants report to the commission. We are the city. They report to us. They don't report to the city council. They report to us. We can go to the city council and say, this is what we like to do. I would not put it in the situation where it is that they are reporting to the city council about work that they're doing with us.
I thought Mr. Edmond just talked about that there could be some contractual obligations written somewhere that I don't have a privy to regarding on reporting on the deliverables. We cannot change that in the middle of the game. And I'm sorry. Yeah, we cannot change that.
We're not changing that. They report to us. They do not report to the city council. They report to us. That's where there's always been the challenge, is that we're always going to the wrong place, giving people more influence and power than they should actually have. I'm not asking you to change the contract. The contract just simply says that they just need to submit something. They don't have to submit it in person. They can write a letter. We appreciate this is the work we've done. Thank you very much. And then let it go from there. But again, if you believe that it is not going to negatively impact us, then fine. It's not much I can do. But if we're simply saying it because we believe that we as a commission are not a part of the city, and we have no right to determine when the consultants that are supposed to be working with us can talk to in essence, the city council, then I think that's a little bit concerning.
Okay.
But I will support whatever effort. I will support whatever effort if that is the plan to continue to move forward, I will support it.
I just want to provide a little clarification, so this might help. So if you can recall some of the discussion that we had in lead up to the discussion around the pause and the impact that the pause would have had on how the consultants were paid, and the language about each phase being connected to a certain period of time. I think phase 1 was approximately 3 months. Phase 2 was approximately 4 months. We've gone beyond the point of the city manager's comfort level of his discretion in the contract. because of the time going beyond actually 2 months now from when the contract was originally to close. So if we recall, March was the time that it was closed. So now we're into to April, and conversations is like even going into potentially May. That would be a substantial contract deviation. Now, it doesn't mean that there's provisions to allow for extension, but it's just beyond the city manager to be able to do that without city council approval. And the conversation before was trying to maneuver what the contract would allow without having to go and get additional support or approval from the city council. So I think there was some email trail of what that could potentially look like. The city manager is comfortable for allowing the contract to be closed out on April at the end of this month, which could be the presentation could be given on the 16th, and some final written report as the contract spells out could be delivered April 30th, and that is fine. But if we're going to go and look at something outside of that, we just believe that the time frame has been pushed for all kinds of legitimate reasons, but it's just been pushed beyond a point where we're comfortable saying that's not a substantial contract change that would require council to be acknowledged and approved in that process. So that's where we are. It's not that it can't be done, but it's beyond the point of having administrative discretion over the process, if that helps.
Doesn't, because I'm not sure. I don't understand how you believe, based on the conversation we were having, was asking to extend the contract.
So it sounds as if more time would be needed. There's only one city council meeting remaining in the month of April. If April 16th is not the date that the presentation would happen, then that would be in May. And frankly, I can't close out any of these contracts until those deliverables are done. So that's.
Are you saying? But I'm trying to make sure I'm clear on this. Are you saying that the presentation to the city council is a part of the contract, or is it that simply that they have to write their final report and then that concludes the contract?
The presentation is a part of the deliverables. The final report is also a part of the deliverables. They don't have to be delivered at the same time, but they are two different deliverables.
So I just want to make sure I'm just clear. So you're saying that they need to then communicate to the city council about their progress, not to the commissioner, but to actually the city council.
The way the contract speaks is that it's a collaborative process that presentation be done of the TRC and the facilitating team.
But I think you're still skirting the.
What's that?
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead, please.
I was going to say it doesn't provide very detailed of who presents or how it's presented, but it does speak that it should be a collaborative it should be a collaboration of that presentation, and it does speak to a final report. So those two things are specific deliverables the city manager is given to the end of the month for those to be delivered. There's only one opportunity, unless you're suggesting a special meeting for the city council, which I tell you would not go over well. There's only one opportunity to have that be done in April, and the April 16th would be the date for the city council portion. The remaining of the month would be the remaining time for the final report. If those timelines can't be met, then the appropriate process would be for the consultant team to say, we can't meet those and request an extension. The chair, the board, the TRC would say yes. The chair would provide in writing a request to the city manager, who would then put that on the city council agenda, and the city council would then grant it or not.
But the only way they can grant it is on the 16th.
The 16th would be, no, they could, apparently they could, their next meeting would be the first meeting in May that they can take that up. So, because the discretion of the city managers goes to the 30th, to the end of the month. So until you get to the end of the month, you can have that on the agenda, the very first meeting. I don't have that off the top of my head, but it's usually the first week in May.
So I guess I'm just misunderstanding. So we could put in a request that wouldn't get to city council until after the April 16th date,
After the April 30th date is what you're looking for.
but we are still required to present on the 16th. So we would be like, what, in delinquent status?
If the council didn't accept it, I guess you could make that case, yes.
So we have no opportunity to even appeal to the city council.
You have an opportunity to appeal to the
Not
city
before
council,
the
but your
16th.
timeline is running at the risk of, if not being approved, you could essentially, it'd be not more the TRC, but the facilitation team could be out. You could make the argument it's breach of contract.
So we just need to talk to city council members.
I didn't hear what you said. What did you say?
If that's what you're wanting to try to ask for an additional time, if you're looking at that approach, that you're trying to get additional time, yeah, you want to speak to city council members, but I don't think they'll have to. You can still get on the agenda on the 16th.
It seems like we're at a dilemma.
I just know with this particular meeting, I don't know how much you can actually take that issue up, or that you might have to call a special meeting to take on just that issue if you want to get an extension. Because we have not really, we've been talking about it, but we really haven't got anything from the consultant team saying we actually need extra time. I think the time that the 16th and April 30th for the final report, I think has been acceptable. Unless I'm hearing anything different. I don't think we've gotten an actual request from the consultant team for beyond that. Annie, you're looking.
Actually, we only found out that that was a firm date this morning. You know, that on Monday, when we all were talking, Chastity and you and Stephanie were there, we were talking about different possible timeframes. That we were. So today, finding out this morning prompted us to be meeting and put together just a very rough draft. This is not meant to be anything final, but it does include stuff from the report that we wanted you guys to know and weigh in on. If we really are on that fast track, we wanted you to have a say in what this report looks like. And definitely we'd like to work with you if that's what you want to do. What my point that I tried to make earlier is that you could separate presenting your plans at a later time. So that's what I meant. The other thing is, I admit that maybe my understanding is limited, but I believe for me that I am not billing any of these hours. I never bill the meetings anyway, the TRC meetings, but that I'm done billing hours for my time here, and we're going to be working on this, and that's okay. That's my understanding. I could be wrong. It could be that other people are thinking of getting compensated for time during this month. Anyway,
And that's great. I just know that none of this has been closed out yet, and I still
Right.
have the think piece that I need to close out because I don't know what the ramifications are for the final report, because that's still kind of up in the air on if
it's
that's going to cost more for the other consultant team. None of that's been communicated to me, so I don't know.
It's really good that you brought up the fact that on the 22nd, they left our team. Their contract was ended. So we are working without them. We had begun working on the report before then, but I don't think that, we haven't talked as a group what we're
Right.
doing
And
about
I
that,
don't know if
except
that's
that we're all
appropriate for this meeting
working on it.
to go through all those details. I don't know if
Yeah,
it's appropriate for this
but
meeting, but I just wanted to make the point that these things can't be closed out until all the deliverables are done. And so this is the last of phase 2. And these are the things that have to be kind of figured out before we can actually close out final payments. That's all.
Oh, understandable. I actually felt like it might be useful for you guys to hear this other extraneous but related information.
I think it's very related, so I appreciate you giving this as information, Annie.
Okay, thanks.
So I'm just going to say my opinion is I agree with Commissioner Simmons that in a perfect world, we would do it all together because it will make us look the best. It feels like right now we are being tied. I will do my best to work out to see what we can do. But if we do have to present on the 16th, going to have to work together to figure out what that looks like.
So
What is everybody's schedule? I'm sorry.
if I can hear you well, you want us to discuss the contents, our input into the joint presentation, what it should be look like.
I mean, I don't even know how to discuss that right now because, as Annie just pointed out, this is not complete. They weren't prepared to share this with us today because it was not expected to be presented on the 16th until this morning. So,
I think on the side of the facilitators, they know what they're expected to do based on the contracts. I don't have it. I don't know. We are supposed to discuss it either. They know what it reads and what is expected. Ours is we are kind of implicated in a way because jointly we have not completed the process. And but them, they have to approach the talk about termination of the, ending, not termination, closing the contract. They have to necessarily because there are budgetary implications, other things, yeah. But on our side as the commission, we see the other things. Them, they are seeing money, the city is also seeing money. On our side, me as a commissioner, I'm worried about the charge, what I was told to do. And I didn't want to come here to worry much about the money stuff, although we use the money to eat and do other things, print stuff, yeah. So they have to do their part to 100%, and recommend and state, this is how far our deliverable looks like this. This is what it is. Fact finding, this is what it has come, this is where we are. Truth telling, this is where we are. The commission believes that they have these other areas or gaps that they have to move into. And it is them to recommend also that having been jointly with us on not completed the whole process, I don't know whether that means they can't continue. I don't know about those implications here. But if it is that, I don't know how the contract was written because I'm not sure whether it was written in such a way that once it is, you reach the complete process of recommendations, everything, then the contract is over. I don't know if there are also flexibilities in between where in different stages you show what you've done to continue to get paid or not. Those are things I really don't know. Yeah. I don't know how these guys even get paid, to tell you the truth, as a commissioner member here. Yeah. I don't know if they have been paid everything they're supposed to get. Yeah. That anything else they feel like they have done every part of what they're supposed to do, I don't know that either. Yeah, maybe it's ignorance on my part. But
So you're saying you would like a copy of the
Yeah,
contracts.
and for us to discuss this very well, we need to know, okay, does it say that, like now we are talking about continuing the same processes in the future, going to the community and other things. What if it is a situation where they say, we are not going to be part of those things you are talking about? What if the consultant says,
Well, the consultants' contracts are ending this month. They were supposed to be ended last month. So they will not be a part of our future discussions anymore.
okay, yeah.
Their contract is over. We're talking about their final activity, which is the presentation, and
Okay.
then they're completely done.
Okay.
They will be giving us a report.
Chair, can I add a clarification to something I said earlier? So from a timeline basis, just looking at logistics, for the 16th meeting, staff has to have everything in by the previous Thursday. I don't have my calendar in front
So
of me.
the 10th or whatever.
Yeah,
the 11th?
somebody, whoever has a calendar, the Thursday before the Tuesday, the 16th, that's when everything has to be in. So theoretically, if this body, since I looked over with Stephanie over the agenda, the language is not at a point where we're comfortable that the commission could take a vote on if an extension is warranted, and they would accept or approve an extension or request a recommendation for an extension. You could have a special meeting, take that vote, get it to,
We can't have the vote right now?
no, because it's not on the agenda. That language,
But it's part of the next steps.
yeah, we don't think next steps is going to be something.
We have to meet in person to have a special meeting to vote about something that it clearly says that we can talk about right now. Next steps, this is everything to do with next steps.
You need something that says grant an extension. You need a wording of that level. It has to be pretty specific.
Can that be a Zoom meeting?
Now, that part, I think it may be able, but that's a little bit out of that's a legal question, and maybe Stephanie might know better. But that's what you probably would need to do if you want to grant an extension. But again, we haven't really received anything from the consultant team. I know that they say timing is the issue, but I'm under the understanding, and please correct me, that they can still meet it within the timeline that's given. So I would make sure that that's something that they actually need, because part of the contract is that they request it. It doesn't say that they have to request it in writing, but that they actually request that time extension.
If I may, I just want to make sure that it's clear that the understanding that I had of our responsibilities on the presentation was different before this meeting started than it is now. When we were talking via email before, I understood that we'd be doing much of what we'd done the last time the TRC updated the city council, that we'd provide them with some content, that they would make a presentation, that we would be available for questions. We're talking about something very different now. And so, without meaning to speak for Annie or V or anybody else, it does feel like a very short timeline for us to be able to agree jointly on the entire content of the presentation in less than a week. If I'm understanding you correctly, you were saying that there's a deadline of the 11th to, I assume, produce the presentation, even though we're not giving it till the 16th. I assumed you meant that we needed to have the PowerPoint or whatever format to you by the 11th. That's less than a week from now. There are, anywhere from 5 to 7 or 8 of us that need to be part of this in terms of the remaining members of the facilitation team. And again, I didn't know until now that this was really our presentation to make. So again, without meaning to speak for anybody other than myself, I think that we would like more time to prepare that. But if we are told that there is no alternative, certainly I would comply with the deadline that you've given us.
So just to clarify, your understanding before the meeting, it's, in my mind, the same. I think the piece that's missing is it has to be a collaboration with the TRC. So if the TRC is comfortable the way you have articulated what your understanding is before this meeting, I think from the city standpoint, that's acceptable. The 11th timeline is only pertinent if a request is going to be asked for, an extension is going to be asked for. If it's just a presentation, yeah, that'd be great to have that presentation, but I think the city clerk really doesn't need to have that until the 24 hours in front of before the city council meeting, just from logistics standpoint of getting the PowerPoint, if that's what you're using, and you're not required to use a PowerPoint. I think that's the deliberation and collaboration that the contract speaks of, where you come to some amenable understanding of how that presentation is going to be given amongst the TRC and the consultant team. So just as a clarification, if that helps at all.
I have a question.
I would like to give Commissioner Simmons an opportunity. He's had his hand up for a while.
Sorry.
We can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, so this is again my concern about going down a rabbit hole. So there's several things that are being raised, but I want us to keep focused on what the initial conversation was. The first thing that's being raised is, I'm gonna go with the second. The second thing that's being raised is about the contract. There are two things that have to fulfill the contract. One is some presentation that has to be given, and the second is a report has to be given. The consultant should work on the report and get the report by the end of the month. That is something that should be dropped dead. They should do. If they don't do, they're in breach of contract. As it relates to the communication as far as the presentation is not the presentation that you saw. You don't need anything that long. You don't need to send them anything that long. Write a 2-page summary of what the situation is, submit it on Friday. Go and just simply have a conversation at that meeting and just give them a summary of what we've done. Phase 1 we told you about in November, and this is what entailed with phase 3. Here are the additional things that we need to do. We want your support in doing it. We will come back in May to provide more detail. Then you would have fulfilled their requirement. It's joint because we're the ones leading it. They're not presenting. You secure the safety of the situation in the room. Everyone gets in essence what they're supposed to get, and then we can then keep on moving. That would be my recommendation. 2 people don't have to be there. All of us don't have to be there. It's just one person that has to give that. You have a problem with doing that? I'll be on my best behavior and I'll do that myself. I won't go wild and come up with crazy ideas and thoughts. I'll just simply stay within a color within the line. It's simple, and then we're fine. The contract should have been written better, but that's just another topic. Fulfilling the contract, we should fulfill it. We shouldn't try to ask for it. Agreement. It makes us look silly. It makes us look like we didn't do planning. So that's what I'm recommending.
Who can't make it?
It's a 15-20-minute conversation.
Who can't make it on the 16th?
I would rather not be there because I am doing so much over the next, I can be there, but anything mentally that has to do with preparing for it, I'm not available. So I will take Chad's offer to present that night or whoever. But if we're doing that, I would, preparing everything needs to be.
Johnson, would you like to do it?
If I have to step up, good God.
No.
Yeah.
Report.
More consistent with the feeling of the folks in the room. So I think that if you would step up and you would, in essence, just simply provide them just a quick summary, then I think that, and then simply say that we'll give you more information in May, I think that'll meet their needs.
I'll definitely consider it. I'll consider it, yes. I'm a little confused that if we knew this time frame was coming up, then for us not to be prepared for it.
So here's what happened. I meet with the consultants and the city every Monday, and not this past Monday, the Monday before. I suggested and asked if we could move this meeting on Tuesday the 16th to May. I was told that that was a very likely possibility, meaning that I would not have to worry about thinking about that for this meeting tonight. Had I known that we would have to do this on the 16th, we would have a very different discussion tonight. But because my life is busy like everyone else's, especially right now, I went off what I was told and expected to not have to deal with this today.
Who told you?
Redmond told me this information.
So let me be clear. I said that could be a possibility, and we would need to have something in writing requesting that. We never did get that. So in addition, the timeline of being pushed to the limit has worried the city attorney, and getting us to the point where the same issues that we dealt with the pause is so far it's so far out of what was originally written that it falls into the world of having to be an amended version of the contract. So
Again, I will go ahead and say that we should do an update, but I will push back and say I was told that it was very likely that we would not have to do it. I was not told that I needed to provide any form of information to make that happen. So I would like that to be on the record, that that was not the information given to me.
But this is normally what happens. Cities do not like risk. They don't do any type of risk. They keep their job if they keep everyone out of risk. We can't talk to the gentleman that has Shorts Burger because he filed a lawsuit, so none of us can talk to him. He would have been an excellent person for us to hear his truth. So the cities are just risk averse. They just are. It doesn't mean Redmond could say the sky is green, but if the lawyers say kind of bluish green, kind of more of an aqua color, whatever, then it ultimately changes. So it's not even whoever you want to put it on. It is what it is. That's city. I'm just simply saying, just roll past it. It's not a big issue. Just roll past it. Don't let the consultants be in breach. The city doesn't want to be in breach. If we want a new contract with anyone, we'll create a brand new contract, but let everything end the way it's supposed to end. It's really a 15 to 20 minute conversation with the city council, if that.
Okay.
So,
We have
Brother
years.
Johnson, if you're willing to do it, then again, it should be. I think you have more of the sentiment of the people in the room. If you can't do it and you want me to do it, again, it's just a political play. That's all.
I want to comment a little bit because I wanted to see what exactly the contract said, and I'll have to go back also to a recording of previous meeting that we had that I know we specifically discussed this, where we knew that it was going to be like 4 months for the phase 2, and that in trying to figure out the timing of when the presentation had to be, and that like I said, I'll have to go back and check the recording to know specifically what the wording was, but I remember that where our work, whatever else could be done at the end of March, but there was the time frame afterwards, like into April or whatever. I can't remember what the time frame was for the presentation. And the contract itself doesn't state any timeline as to when that presentation is presented. Even after it talks about the 4 months of what is phase 2, and that sometime after phase 2 is the presentation to the city council and progress evaluation. So I understand that contractually, with money aspect, whatever else, I know the city might want to get it done sooner than later, but if we're talking about, the timeline as to when the presentation is presented after the phase 2 is done, it's not in the contract.
So I will say we had discussed that, like we said, when we went through the whole pause. The attorneys, that work is part of phase 2. So that 4-month period includes all deliverables.
So you're saying-
and that would
so
be
you're
a
saying that-
deliverable.
So you're saying the deliverable being done, presented at the end of March?
Yeah.
But that's not, I remember that's not what was agreed on at a meeting during that time period when we voted on whatever that option won.
Correct.
That's where I need to go back to see exactly what was written.
That's where there's a certain amount, a level of discretion that the city manager has that can grant amendments to, as long as there's not a substantial change. And so the agreed amount of time before was within the comfort level of being not a substantial change. The problem is that was already kind of pushing it, like it was like half a month or so, 2-3 weeks. Now we're talking 2 more weeks on top of that, and potentially a couple weeks on top of that because of the ability of the city council to meet. So now that is going beyond the comfort level of what a substantial change is to a contract without requiring an amendment.
What an amendment? Why is that such a problem?
Timeline? Well,
Things have to be.
say for
posted,
example,
noticed.
people want to get paid, right?
Yeah.
I can't pay them because it's not over yet. So people could actually be experiencing damages. We went through this whole conversation with the pause, right? Because there could be potential damages of not being able to take other work or other jobs or what have you. Not that anyone has said that there's some damages, but the fact of it is you want to close this out as the contract speaks, because then you do open up certain risks of damages being presented. Now,
Can we find out if there's any damages to anybody in order to make that move?
well, I don't know that. I mean, that's going down another road. I would have to look to legal on, but essentially, contracts are all supposed to be paid out at the end of March, and we're talking now potentially May.
How long is our presentation supposed to be?
So I think that Commissioner Simmons laid it out right. We just do April 16th. That seems to be the best option. We use, to the best of our abilities, our consultants to help us present. And we lay out, like we did in November, our progress report and some highlights of what we plan to do moving forward, with a promise to come back with more information in May. That seems to be the only option to do. I do not want to call a special meeting for us to vote on asking for an extension. I hear Redmond saying about damages or in closing out the contracts. This, to me, seems like the best option, so I'm sorry we've had this long conversation on this, but I think we're back to where we started. So let's just move forward with that.
Before we move forward, how long does our presentation need to be? Do we have a certain specific time?
There's no
or anything?
timeline, 15, 20 minutes. I think it's great what Commissioner Simmons said. It's really just a progress report, kind of similar to what we did before. Whoever can be there can be there.
I can be there.
I'm going to be there. So
Yeah.
what I'm trying to figure out right now is I didn't know that I was going to do it, but if worst case scenario, I'll step up to the plate, but it's just unexpected. That's all. I was thinking something else, but
Let's talk about it afterwards. Just
yeah,
to
I don't
get
like
some
this.
logistics.
The thing that bugs me is when we know we have a city that could possibly be wanting to shut us down for whatever reason at every angle, for us not to be prepared for that. That's all. That worries me. And if we go there on the 16th and give any reason to trip us up, I have no problem stepping up for it if need be, if that'll help.
I think it would be very
Just a
helpful.
question. Commissioner Chet talked about two things, the report and the presentation. Those things are different. And failure,
Are they different?
they are different.
The
Looks like they're different.
I thought,
They're different.
Okay.
And we are implicated just because of maybe a failure for the facilitators, consultants to deliver their report. I don't mean delivering, they have done services, the report, dropping the report. So I'm looking at the calendar that we got from them earlier on, and it was on the 31st, they were expected to report to the city, report due to City Council, March 31st. And after that is when we were going to go to presentation to the city, which means they are completely two different things. So, of course, the presentation on the 16th could have relied on the information from the report and could have probably helped the City Council to absorb what we are talking about, the brief one-page thing Commissioner Chad is talking about. By then, they were expected to have received the report, so even if we are talking about other things presentation, they understand where we are coming from. If right now they have not received any report, and we want to put these two things together on one day, we are really messed up.
So you're saying, so the report is now due April 30th, correct?
Right.
And then the presentation that you're talking about on the 16th, but what is your question?
My question is, we are putting these two things together, and it looks like chronologically, logically, they were not planned to be like that. Mm-hmm. There's a contractual report that is supposed to be submitted by the facilitators.
So I don't think that there was ever contract on the dates. It was suggested, right? Like it's not.
He's correct.
Okay.
But what happened was think piece termination. And so since that happened, we all recognized that was unplanned. So the city manager felt comfortable with his ability to, because it didn't result in costing the contractor, the city, more money. And the time was amenable because we had already given the extension to the 16th at the time for the presentation. So there was ample comfort level to extend that time. And he's gone beyond that and said we can even extend that to the end of the month of April. It just becomes complicated when we get out of April. That's the problem, and he's just saying, and the lawyers are saying, like, hey, if we got to go into May, that means we are definitely in the world of asking for an amendment. That's what we are. That's what the situation
And
is.
what part of going into May, our presentation, or is there?
Just for all deliverables remaining, which right now is the presentation and the report. The report, like Commissioner Amos was saying, was initially was going to be done before the presentation. It was the presentation that was pushed back because the council only meets twice a month. But then with the whole thing with Think Piece, that kind of blew that up.
Does that answer your question, Commissioner Kiche?
Yes, I get that we are restricted on how far we can stretch this. But I don't know how the city will take it when in one event. How do you do? It's a presentation. How is the report going to be given? When? The same day? Or
So the report is going to be due on April 30th, and it's not a presentation. It is just a
Just
piece
the
of paper.
report.
on the
Like,
paper they all report?
So we can have that.
yeah, we'll
All we
have
need
it,
to do
and
is
the
just make
city
sure on the
council will have
16th.
it, and,
Okay.
will city council get the report?
They'll get the
Okay.
report. You
But
don't
not
have
on
to
the
have a
30th.
public meeting to
Okay.
get the report. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So just a short speech to explain what we've been through and what we've been going through on the 16th is all we really need.
And our consultants were helpful with putting everything together last time, so of course, we can work together with that. Go ahead, Larry.
Chair, I'm sorry. Quite honestly, I need to go be a dad here. It's past their bedtime. I just wanted to ask whether the presentation on the 16th would be during the session that starts at 4 or the session that starts at 6, just for my planning.
Good question. It would actually be during the work session, which would be the 4 o'clock hour.
4 o'clock.
Yeah.
I'll be in touch. Thank you.
Thank you. So, long discussion. I think we all understanding now?
Who's going to be present now? Who's going to be doing a presentation? I want to know that.
So are you able to be there between 4?
I'll be there.
Okay.
I'll definitely be there.
I just have to ask for the time off from work, which I can find out by tomorrow.
So it looks like we will be able to have people there. I could probably be there, but I might have to let you guys know after this meeting, especially since it's at 4 and for some reason I missed that.
That's
My
just a
bad.
work session, and actually there's several things on that work session agenda, so if you would prefer it to be closer to 5, there may be some ability to do that, so.
Okay, so that might be better. Yeah, so are we in agreement with moving forward with what we talked about? We'll, do the joint
Gonna
presentation.
be making a presentation is what I want to know.
Would you like to?
No, I wouldn't like to, but I will if I have to. I have no problem with it if I have to, but I'd rather not. I didn't know I was going to have to, but I will.
Can we decide like after this offline, and we can figure it out?
Yeah.
Okay?
And I don't want to have to
No,
we'll make sure.
no. It needs to be decided now.
Why?
Because there's preparation and work that in essence needs to be done. Once you try to do it offline, you're right, you can't have a quote unquote official meeting. Once you try to do it offline, then that's where again you get into a place of chaos. It's only a determination of who is going to do the presentation. That's all. I made an offer. I suggested that you really consider it because I think you have people again on your side. I don't have a problem with doing it, but we have to make the decision now. We cannot keep kicking this can down the road.
I will work with Chad and Cliff on the presentation. Is that and Lauren? Well,
Yeah.
Is that us four will make sure that this happens? Is that an okay decision?
I don't think it's a question about the presentation. I think it's a question about who is presenting.
We knew the 16th was coming up, guys. We knew that we would have to step up. We got to take off. I got to take off work too. You get me? So I lose a lot of money doing this. I get it. We're all losing it. But we knew the 16th is coming up. So what are we doing now? Am I doing it? Who's doing it? What's going on? Decisions got to be made.
I can do it with Chad. I can do it with Chad.
Lauren and Chad, go ahead.
I'd be willing to do it with Chad if one, I don't want you to lose out on money because I know that's something, but I'd be willing to do it together with Chad.
Okay, so Lauren and Chad presenters, okay with that?
I don't have a problem with that, but on the contents, I would still want to go with your suggestion that you consult with other commissioners
Of
on
course.
what the content's going to look like.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yes, of course. So presenters, Chad and Lauren, if anyone has
Be
an
there
issue.
too, so if
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
want me to, I'm definitely going to be
And
there.
I have one more clarification. We have to have this to,
No.
on
We don't
Thursday,
we don't have to have anything to Thursday.
on the 11th.
Actual presentation, if you want it on the screen, the clerk needs 24 hours before the meeting.
24 hours.
Oh, so what was that about the 11th?
That's just if we were going to vote for an extension.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool, thank you.
Go ahead, Annie.
Thanks. So before the last presentation,
You were gonna say?
a slideshow was created that worked for Chastity and Lauren to present. So it was meant to be supportive, and you guys did a great job, and you did more than what was in there. You brought yourselves to it. If you look at the agenda on what we provided here, this was meant to be a very broad brush possibility of things, and it does include stuff like recommendations that are currently in the draft of the report. But anyway, if you look at this, if you look at the agenda, it is just like the deliverables, and there are lots of slides that indicate each of the deliverables, what happened in November, December, January, February, March. The next thing is commissioners' takeaways. It seems like that you guys could come up with things that you felt were beneficial to you and your personal and collective learning that you're going to take into your planning. So it could be even that simple. I'm riffing off what Commissioner Simmons said. And the recommendations that are really coming from the facilitation team don't have to be included. So it could be that simple, and as you look through it, you can see this. I guess I'd want to say that something that we thought was useful is the first three things after the agenda. First, the strategic plan, because the Iowa City strategic plan really is consistent with your duties. Then the next thing that we had was the charges, your charges. And then the next thing was your North Star framing question, because that was the language you all came up with for your purpose. So that's what is here. So as you're all considering what will we do, there is this stuff here for you to use in any way you want. And we're glad to provide the originals so you can work with it, or you can say, here's what we want. Here's our takeaways. We all just sent something to Stephanie and just add those in the final thing, and then we'll say that we'll come back to you with our plan soon. So anyway, I just wanted to give you guys all that concrete stuff, whether it's useful or not. It is perhaps helpful as you're thinking about how you're going to approach the presentation. Thanks.
Good to go. Thank you.
I think we have come to a consensus of
Yeah,
how to move
Chad had
forward.
his hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry, I missed it. Chad, you had your hand up?
The only thing I would say is that again, you want to take a look at who you're presenting to. You want to get your, maybe, the top 5 slides, maybe. So it's going to be 3 to 5 slides is really all we're going to use. Because ultimately what we're telling them is that this is the work we've done. This is what we plan on this is the additional work we need to do, and we'll talk to you more about it in May. That's it.
Perfect, thank you. Thank you all. Is there anything else that we'd like to discuss in this agenda item number 6? Can definitely bring this back up at our next meeting. If there's no protest, I'm going to move on to announce, well, I'm going to protest. Public comments. Is there anyone online that'd like to raise their hand? Looks like no. And so I'm going to move on to commissioner announcements. Anyone have an announcement? Staff announcements.
I'll just add, I know that we had hoped to have budget closeout. We'll obviously have that ready once we are able to get our final numbers and everything. So you will get a report that will go down how much money we spent and how much money is remaining and all those kind of things at a future date.
Thank you. If there's no announcements, I move to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you.